Hello and welcome to my Ever Messy Art Studio. My name is Keeks, and today we're going to make some artist trading cards. My quiet corner, Carol, and I have decided to do a swap with each other, and I thought that I would come up with a couple ideas for that. So we are doing landscape ones. So my idea was to do two landscape ones, decide which ones I like, because I have two different ideas. I'm not sure which one I wanted to do. And then the other one I thought would be fun was to make a quiet corner, like a book nook or something on one. And I thought that would be kind of funny to send to her. So let's go ahead and get started. I think I am going to start out with watercolor. Watercolor is something that I absolutely adore. And on top of the watercolor, we will be doing some gouache. So I saw another artist on YouTube at one point in time do like a neon color background and then do a landscape over it. So I wanted to kind of try that. And what you do is use gouache over top of it. And because gouache is a little bit thicker, you shouldn't be able to see as much of that background, except for in tiny little hints of it. So it's almost like you're doing a like an underpainting. So that's what I am going to start doing. And I think for this background, I'm gonna do definitely some orange. I think orange would be really cool. I'm gonna use my Teo Tree watercolors for this. And I'm just gonna put some random orange in here. And then some yellow. That yellow is not really showing up very well, is it? Put a little bit more yellow in there. And then some pink. Maybe some neon green here in the middle. And then we can do some blue over here. And maybe some red over here. And remember, this is just an underpainting, so besides every now and then, we shouldn't be seeing too much of this in there. So this is just for kind of a fun underpainting idea. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry and then we'll be right back with our gouache. All right, so this is mostly dry now, and I zoomed in the camera so that you can see it a little bit better. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in some mountains because, well, actually I should probably start with the sky, huh? Well, I kind of like how this watercolor did with the sky, so I might not change it that much. But I do want to add some mountains in there. So I'm going to start with kind of a calm color, like one that's not super dark, and we'll see what happens here. Excuse me. I have my Himi gouache, so that's what I'm going to start with. And we're just going to... I'm just wetting it right now. And then I'm going to start doing a little mountain scene. I'm just kind of mapping out where my mountains are going to be. So something like that I think would be kind of cool. Color in those mountains a little bit more. Today, she actually made some landscapes on hers as well, on her channel. So that was really exciting to watch. I was happy to be able to stop in while she was working on that. It was pretty fun. I always think it's funny because most of the live streams I watch are people that I recognize from DDs. So it's always really funny to see like who all goes to who all's stream, because if they're not from DDs, then sometimes they're from PM Artist Studio. So I just think it's funny that all of us RD people like kind of all just flock to each other. But I do definitely like the art community on YouTube. I think it's a very nice bunch of people. And I feel lucky to be included whenever I can be. Okay, so I think that's going to be good for some mountains. Now, if I wanted to, I could make a second layer of mountains in here, which might be cool. So what I could do for that is choose a different color. And something kind of cool about gouache is that it mixes really well. So even doing a color on top of that blue, it should still look pretty cool. So I'm going to take like a purple color, and I'm just going to lightly map in some additional mountains. Being careful not to go too high, because I want to be able to see the other mountains too. And notice this color is a lot. It's just really similar to it. It's just a slightly different shade. That's to hopefully give us some depth as we're moving along here. There we go. And then for this next part, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna get out a teeny tiny little guy, because right now I'm using an Isotosh number 7. But on Amazon, I bought a bunch of these. Let me grab them real quick and I'll show them to you. They're these guys, and they're fine liners. So we've got a 20 millimeter. I've got a 25 millimeter. I've got an 8 millimeter. I've got a 4 millimeter and a 12 millimeter. So let's see what one of these looks like. Oh my goodness, yeah, so that's very, very tiny. And I think that'll be cool because then we can do some background trees with those, and kind of get our party started here. So I'm gonna go in with some green, and I think I'm gonna do a really dark green and see how that goes. So I'm gonna wet my brush, and it's a tiny little thing. I'm just gonna splat some on a piece of paper that I've got over here for mixing. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm very, very lightly gonna make some little lines like that. And then what you do is you kind of Bob Ross it a little bit, and you can just add some extra little lines in there. Some happy little tree accidents. See, they're not accidents, they're tree accidents. But you end up with these little tiny tree guys. And I'm gonna fill up that space with these little trees, just to give it some depth. And they can be as close together or as far away as you want. It's not really the biggest dealio ever. Just want to get them in there, and it's good to use a tiny brush to do that with. But just be aware, if you're using gouache like I am, it will reactivate the gouache, so you will have to re-dip in there for your trees. There's another line. doing a bunch of little lines. Just like that. It's a very tedious and small task, but it will look really good. Oh, that's a good tree right there. I've been really excited to do this because, see, Carol at My Quiet Corner has this awesome sticker that she made a couple episodes ago. It might have even been at the beginning of this week. If not, then it was last week. But she was doing these like washi tape stickers, and she made this beautiful mountain scene on it. And I was like, oh, I want to do a mountain scene. So I was really inspired by that. And I told her, I go, can we use that as inspiration for each other? And she was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. So I just really appreciate that, because I've been really in the mood for some landscapes. I just haven't really had a reason to do one lately. So this, and I've been wanting a reason to use my gouache, and I just haven't lately. I think the last thing I used a little bit of gouache on was that cat that I made my mother-in-law. Which, I mean, yeah, I did use gouache, but that was for like painted papers and stuff. Like, it wasn't like actual making a painting, you know. It was for making a collage. So this just gave me a nice reason to break out my watercolors and everything. And then I think we're also gonna send each other some like fodder too. So I'm gonna send her some of my gel plate papers that I made, because I've made a whole bunch of them recently. So I thought that would be a nice thing to trade with. And then maybe she can use them in something nice. There we go, just like that. About halfway done. With the trees, I mean. I'm not really referencing anything specific here. I do have Unsplash pulled up on my iPad, and I just have like some simple mountain scenes in front of me from that, which those are like royalty-free ones. But it's just to kind of get an idea of how the layers work. I'm not really actually looking at it as a reference. It's more like, okay, so how do I get the layers to work to give it depth? And that's more what I was looking at with it. I do admire people that are able to do like exact pictures like that when they see a reference and then they just make something amazing with it. I think that's really cool. But I am not that well versed yet. I'm still in practice. Somebody who's really good to watch, who does a lot of good landscape work, is Katie Moody. She is another creator here on YouTube, and she is from England, I think, or somewhere over in the UK, and she does amazing work with landscapes. Definitely one of my favorite artists to follow on there. But she does landscapes all the time, and I don't know how she does it. She just looks at something and somehow makes it look so simple. Like, you watch her and you're like, oh my gosh. Even on Patreon, like, she makes stuff look so easy, and I'm like, ugh. I love it. She's so encouraging too. Like, she encourages like the play side of art, and you know, she's like, as long as you're creating, you are an artist. And I like that about her. Like, she also struggles with like perfectionism problems, like I do. And so it just feels nice to have somebody there just being like, hey, it's okay, just create something. As long as you create something, you're winning. Okay, so there's our first layer of trees. And I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry a little, and then we will do the next layer, which I will also be doing with this tiny brush, I think, because this tiny brush is working out really great. So give me a second to get this dry and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's dry now. And now I'm gonna take a different green. Let's do this one. I'm using my Himi gouache, as I said. I think I said that anyway. But I'm just playing with the Himi. I like my Himi gouaches. I know some people are kind of weirded out by them because they're gelatin, but honestly, they're really good. And mine are like dried out and stuff, and they just reactivate like nothing. Like nothing ever happened. So I quite like them. I just find them a lot of fun to use. Because I'll be honest, I was not sure about gouache before the Himi. So I tried a couple of them and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. You know how when you try something, you're like, So that's how that works. That's how I kind of was. And I was like, So I like to joke that gouache is really thick like tomato paste, and most gouache is. It looks like you're painting with tomato paste. But I like these because these remind me more of acrylics in a way. The way they spread is more like acrylics. So I tend to like them a lot better. I have several different types of gouache that I've played with, but I don't know. There's just something about them that's not quite for me. And then I met Himi. Romance. But yeah. I'm just doing another layer of trees. These trees are slightly bigger. They're taller. And what I might do is with these trees, I might spread them out a little bit. Just to kind of give the idea that they're closer. And, you know, nature is a bit more spread out, I think, sometimes. Like, I don't think these have to be right up next to each other. Yeah. So what's everybody else working on? Does anybody have any, like, projects or anything that they've got going? Any big plans for maybe Easter or just the weekend in general? We are going to meet my mother-in-law because it's actually her birthday on Easter. We're gonna do like a little birthday shopping with her because that's what she wants to do for her birthday. So that should be pretty good. Do another one right here. I'm getting kind of a two-toned with this tree because it's showing up almost a different color over the darker gouache, but it's okay. We've still got the other one to play with too. So who knows? We might like one better than the other. We might like them both. I don't know yet. But I think it will be fine. And this could always be, maybe there's some water behind these trees, so maybe there's a reflection going on. That could be part of it. You just gotta use your imagination a little bit sometimes. leave those two out by themselves. Do another one that's kind of close to that one. Really like the look of pine trees. I'm just not very good at drawing them, so I usually try to keep them really nice and simple like this to where you can kind of get the idea of it. Because as long as you get the idea, there's nothing wrong with it. Make that a little bit taller there. Almost there. There we go. And then we'll do a little batch of them over here. I've been trying to attend more live shows lately just so that I can, you know, see people and talk to them. And, you know, I've been trying to grow my channel a bit, so I figured the more visibility is probably the better. Let's do a ground. But I've been, you know, doing my best to just kind of visit and get to know different people and stuff like that. And I think it's been going pretty good. Let's do a darker green here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a base of a ground, and then I'll put a lighter green on top of it and do some like grassy stuff. So let's kind of use our trees we just put down as a guide. I might want that bigger pen back now, because I think even though I will be using this for smaller detail, I think I need that bigger one back for this part. Maybe something like that. And just kind of taper it down a bit, like that. And then I need a little bit of land over here too. Something like that. And then this way we've got just a little bit of land happening. Then what we can do is take this again and use an even lighter green. And just kind of add a little bit of texture here. So let me mix some green up real quick. Just put, oops, that's got water on it. We don't want that. Don't want it to blob, but we can just do Not even anything super special, but just maybe some little green lines in there, just to give the essence that there's something growing there. If anything, it gives it a little bit of texture. Do it over here too. Nothing too crazy. So something like that. And then what I'd like to do is a big tree here in the front. So for that, let's go ahead and use this one again. And I think I'm gonna use like a dark Payne's gray, because if something's super close to us, we might not be able to see all the details to it. Maybe the sun is causing it to black out a little bit. And then we can use like some other colors to kind of play with it a bit. So I'm just gonna take a Payne's gray kind of color. Mix that up real quick. Get off my brush. There we go. And then let's put it right here. Like that. And put it in our foreground here. I'm kind of a fan of leaving like a small little gap between there, because real pine trees will often have weird little gaps like that. Like sometimes they really do grow in a straight line. We have a park near us that's owned by the Budweiser people, the Budweiser family, and they have some pine trails in their conservation area, and you can often find pine trees that you wouldn't think would exist the way they do. They're very linear, and you're just like, wow, okay. Kind of makes you stop and think a little bit, like maybe I shouldn't be so, stiff or worry about how strange my trees may look, because real trees grow kind of strange too. There we go. Something like that. And I like that it's blue because it kind of breaks up those greens a little bit. I think that looks pretty cool. So then I'm going to take my mini brush again, and we are going to add some green into there. I gotta decide which kind of green that I want to do that with though, because I don't want it to be too woo, Or we could add a little bit of blue in there even, just to kind of break it up a little bit. Let's try that. I'm gonna add just a darker blue. Like not darker than this, it's gonna be lighter than that blue, but it's still gonna be a dark blue nonetheless. And then we can just put in a few little roughies in there, just to kind of give it some foliage. It's okay if you get weird little lines like that, because real trees do have weird little leaves that kind of just do whatever they want. And if you look at trees in nature versus the trees that are planted in your neighborhood, leaves do some weird stuff, man. Branches grow all around. Typically, they're not gonna grow just up and down like you would think. Nature is messy. So we're just gonna be messy with it. We're gonna accept the mess. But see, now it's not so stiff looking, it's more fluffy. And that extra blue is adding a bit of character to it, so I like that. I think it's kind of funny the way that yellow is. It almost looks like the sun's trying to set or something. Kind of fun. And it just so happens that where we put the green, it's reflecting there, so that's really cool. There we go. I think that looks a lot better. And then for this water, I think I'm going to take some, not quite white, but there's like a really light blue. I think that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this tiny brush again, because I'm liking the tiny brush. The tiny brush's friend. Fish are friends, not food. Any Dory fans in here? Probably not anymore because of all the Ellen controversies, but good movie nonetheless. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly add some little waves. Blue. And should I add some white? A little white probably wouldn't hurt. I'll add a little bit of white just to make it more of a complete looking swish of color. Some between these trees. Just kind of ghost some of it in there. maybe we could add some birds up top. So I think that would be kind of nice, just some really teeny tiny little birds flying. So we'll just get a black. This wing a little bit longer. Here we go. And maybe another bird up here. Maybe this bird's got its wings up. Something like that. Nothing too expansive. If we wanted to, we could also add a little bit of white to the mountains. Some that we can see. We could add mist. We can do all kinds of stuff, really. But I'm honestly kind of digging how it looks right now. So I think I'm gonna stop with that one. And I'll hold it up. So this is our sweet little landscape. I think that looks pretty good. So I will set that to the side to dry. And I'm gonna put up my gouache. Because I don't need it anymore. And then we can move on to our next landscape and see what we decide to do. So for this next one, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit. I was gonna do just another regular landscape, but I've decided that I kind of am in the mood to do a seascape now. So we're gonna try and see what that's gonna end up looking like. So I decided to keep my gouache out. And the first thing I'm gonna do is work on a sky. So I'm gonna use that really, really light blue again. I'm gonna plop that in here and start working on a sky. I think I want the sky to go down about halfway because I want to do some pretty clouds up there. This seascape's kind of like a landscape. It's just got more water to it. I've never really painted a seascape before, so I thought that would be kind of fun. I like my skies to be kind of chaotic-y looking. So I'm just doing a lot of swirls in there. And then I need some white. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of that white. I need some water in my white. Apparently it's very dry, which I expected because I haven't used my gouache in a while. Nope, I don't think I need that much. Off camera over here, I'm messing with my paints. Okay, so now I've got some white. I'm just gonna kind of swirl it in and give us some nice clouds. There's no wrong or right way to do a cloud, I feel like. So I think that looks pretty good, like that. And then I want to, for the sea, to use kind of like a blue-green color. So I'm gonna go ahead and capture that color. Got this color, which is a nice color, but I might add some blue to that. Or I might not, we'll see. Sea lines are typically pretty straight across. I'm just mapping out where stuff is real quick. And then I need kind of a sandy color. I do have a sand color right here. Let's grab that and some water. Nope. Just trying to get away from me. It's interesting, some of that's kind of going up because it's still wet, so it's acting like a watercolor. And I'm gonna be okay with that. I don't see a problem with it because we can always say that maybe it's so clear that you can see through it over there. There we go, something like that. And then I would like to put a little bit of detail up here to maybe have some islands or something. For that, I'm gonna use a really tiny guy. And we're gonna put it way off into the distance. So I'm just going to get some water. We can even add some little boats out there if we wanted to. What I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kind of put the essence of some land over here. I say essence because it's not really detailed. Like, you gotta simplify it because it's so far away. You're not really sure what you see. Some little palm trees out there. So this is far away, but not super far away because we can tell what kind of trees are over there. Something kind of like that, where it looks kind of random. So I think that looks pretty cool out there. And then I do like the idea of a little boat. So maybe we could use a little bit of brown. So I'm just gonna get some brown out. And with the brown, maybe over here, there's just an itty bitty little boat. maybe just to add a little bit of an extra color, just for fun, we can use some red and do a little sail. Oop. Sky must have been a little wet there. It's okay. Happy accidents, right? That's a very big sail for a little tiny boat. Maybe it's a pirate boat, we don't know. Yeah, we got like a little sail out there. And then I want to add some white along the beach. So I'm just gonna grab some white. Nope, I've tainted my white with that red. That's okay. And what this is gonna be is it's like the beach water as it rumbles up. To the land. Kind of like that. And then let me get some more white here. Let's do this sliver right here. Get us some untainted white and see what happens. And sometimes what will happen is you get sea foam. So we're gonna kind of try to capture that. So we got a little bit of white. I'm just gonna do a bunch of overlapping shapes. That's gonna be the sea spitting that foam out at us. Gonna try to lighten up that foam a little bit. Like that. And then what we can do is, because this is sand, we should add some brown little dots everywhere. Just because sand is not perfectly smooth. At least I've never known it to be. So we're just going to get some brown on our brush. Make just little dots. So there's something going on with our sand. There we go. That way that sand looks a little bit more interesting. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water, or white, into the water. Just to kind of give it some life. I don't know why I started whispering when I was doing that. It just seemed like a good time to whisper. Okay, so there is that seascape. Not bad. And then we've got our very last one. And this very last one, I wanted to make like a little corner and make a little cute quiet corner for our Carol. So give me 1 second and I'll prepare for that. So for this one, I chose to sketch it off camera just because I was nervous about how the chair would turn out. I wasn't sure if I'd have a lot of erasing or not, which luckily I did not. For this one, I'm gonna use my Gansai Tambis because I feel like that's a really relaxing color palette. And I really like the idea of having a lot of greens, and because I find green very relaxing. I don't know what Carol's favorite color is or anything like that. I've only been watching Carol for maybe the past few weeks to a month. But I would recommend her channel because it's a really cool channel. She does a lot of really neat projects on there. So I just wanted to make like a cute little book nook for her. And I thought that would be cool, and I figured we could do like a little miniature painting in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Gansai Tambi and just kind of go with the flow and let it be really cute. So the first color that I want to start out with is a really light green for the walls. Or do I want to do blue and then have green accents? That could be fun. Let's do blue with green accents because we've got a plant in here, so we don't want to do too much green. So let's do blue. Blue's a nice colorful, a nice quiet color. So I've got this blue and it's called Mauve Taupe. But it's really pretty. Yeah, I like that. We'll start out with doing the walls. That, and then maybe we'll do a darker blue over here on this wall. Oh, I gotta finish doing the wall. I see that there's some under the chair here. There we go, like that. And let's get like a darker blue. Oops, I'm not really centered into the camera, am I? There we go. So I have a cobalt turquoise light. So let's try that color. Ah, that's pretty. I'm getting whispery again. Feel the relaxation. No, I'm just kidding. And the idea behind this wall is, in my old apartment, we used to have a wall like this that had like built-in bookshelves to it. So that was kind of my idea for that. Sorry about that. My family just got home and surprised me with ice cream. Yes, it was delicious. So let's go ahead and finish coloring in this wall. Oops, wrong blue.
I burped it 2 times.
There we go.
Are you doing the video?
I am doing a video.
Hi, everybody. What nice pictures we're doing, correct?
Yep. Thank you, Ronan. Alright, so we've got that in there. And then we probably want a little bit of a darker blue between the books. So I'm going to use the grayish blue for that. Oh, but I got the shelf here too, so I gotta get the shelf. There we go, that's better. Maybe I'll work on the floor so that can dry a little bit. For the floor, let's do this pretty, it's called alizarin crimson, but it's kind of a purpley red. And I can always draw with a pencil and put some, make it wood-like if we need to. There, oops. There we go. Maybe we can work on our painting next. I'm gonna try to put a frame around it first. As if we're pretending that this color is like a wood color. Go, something like that. And then for the chair itself, let's do beige. Or I'm sorry, ecru beige. It's a fancy beige. Go, something like that. Excuse me. And then for the pillow, we can do pea green. Oh, if you hear some squeaking, my dog is playing with her toy. Uh-oh, we got a little bit too close to that tan, so it's kind of leaking everywhere. It's okay. Nothing we can't fix with some colored pencils. There we go. And then maybe we can do the ring around the rug that same color. Let's get a book or two. Some green books won't hurt anything. There we go. Maybe we can get some of that red in there too after a while. Or we can do it now. I always say I'm gonna do stuff and then I'm like, we can put this on this pot here. A little bit of the blue is bleeding, and that'll happen sometimes, but that's okay. That's kind of the fun of watercolor, isn't it? After all, if you don't let it bleed at least a little bit, why bother? And then we can do some ivy green. Uh-oh. That is not what I was looking for though. Let's clean some of that up a little bit. Because now it looks like it has a weird ball on it. So yeah, a little too soupy here. So we're gonna take a corner of a paper towel and kind of dab at it and see what happens. Absorb. Let's make that kind of an abstract painting back there. Ooh, that looks really cool. Go. Lightly add in a little bit of a background to the book nook. And we still need one more color for books. So we could do that really dark green again. And like I said, if it mixes, oh well. And then we'll let this dry and we'll come back and add some details to it with colored pencil. This is pretty dry now, which is great because that means that we can play on it. So I was thinking the first thing that I would take care of is this little area here. And I'm just gonna draw like a plant. maybe some blue flowers. That way it kind of goes with the vibe of the room. And then we need to do something about this book situation. So I'm going to take a black and just kind of re-add some of those lines. That way, instead of just looking like weird blobs, we have a nice little book nook for her. There we go. Just like that. Oddly enough, the chair looks pretty good. Just maybe we'll add just a little bit of like a green line in there, so that it looks like the fabric is being, you know, smushed a little bit, like that. And really, I don't see much else that it needs. I can add a little bit of tan here to this just to kind of hide some of that. But I think, for the most part, it just looks like a really cute little abstract nook. Maybe make it look a little bit wickery. Yeah. So hopefully she enjoyed that. Hopefully she'll enjoy this and think that it's a cute little idea. But I just thought that it would be fun to do. So now I'm going to show you all of the cards that we made together. We made the book nook. We made this really cool oceanscape. And we also made this really cool landscape. So those are 3 really pretty cards that I hope that she enjoys. And I can go ahead and zoom out a little bit so that you can see them all together. But yeah, so I really enjoyed making these, and I really enjoyed like kind of just winging it, really. And just kind of having fun with it. I was really inspired earlier today, like I said, whenever she was making her landscapes. I was like, I need to get mine made. So I'm glad that I was able to do that. And I hope that anybody who watched enjoys this as well. And I hope that you have a good evening wherever you are. And if you believe in Easter or Ostara, any of those things that are happening right now, I hope that you have a good weekend and a great time with your friends and family. All right, see you next time. Bye.